Welcome to another episode of The Brand Called You, a podcast and podcast show that brings you leadership lessons, knowledge, experience, and wisdom from thousands of successful individuals from around the world. I'm your host, Ashutosh Garg, and today I'm delighted to welcome an accomplished professional and a coach from Warsaw, Poland, Joanna Płaskonka. Joanna, welcome to the show.
Thank you very much for the invitation. It's a pleasure to be here.
Thank you. Joanna is a professional Scrum trainer, a consultant, and an effectiveness expert. She is the first Agile Kata trainer in Poland, a certified action learning coach, and a team psychological safety certified expert. So, Joanna, you began your career with a PhD in robotics. What inspired you to shift from robotics to agility and effectiveness?
That's a fantastic question. And actually, I think there might be a surprise because there is an overlap in my career that I believe can explain a lot. So I was combining my PhD studies with my first, sometimes with my friend, we say adult real job. So I was working as an engineer and Scrum Master while doing my PhD. So it was extremely heavy. So sad thing is, it was a challenge, time limitations, your body has to sleep, right?
Yeah.
And simply the reality is tough when you do so many things at the same time. But I think fantastic consequence of that setup for me was that I realized that my calling is actually closer to people. You know, my destiny did not give up on me.
Yeah.
And I think that I was like naturally guided towards that direction. I think I became a better professional gathering all those insights, but there was a very clear calling from the very beginning.
How interesting. And what personal challenges did you face while transitioning from a technical role to a people-focused leadership and consulting role?
Oh, another fantastic one. I think that I faced something that a lot of leaders, consultants, solopreneurs can relate to. So first of all, you redefine the success. So the success becomes how others become successful when you help them. It's no longer focusing on that's my field, this is how I optimize my metrics. I'm changing the perspective on that. Second thing is that you have to embrace learning continuously, and you have to accept you will never have all the answers. So in my new role, I realized that having great partners, learning partners, people that can help me and help guide me in that journey are very important. And last but not least, if I'm to limit my points to three, this emotional aspect of leadership. So
Right.
we are responsible for managing our emotions, and at the same time, there will be a lot of emotions when you talk to people, when you work with people, when you help them incorporate changes. So that's a huge new perspective that becomes, in my view, more and more important in such change.
Wow. Thank you. Great response. And you're obviously a very multifaceted individual because outside of work, you recharge with forest walks, mushroom picking, and crochet. How do some of your hobbies influence your perspective on agility and growth?
Even yesterday, I went for mushroom foraging, and I was thinking that there's so much wisdom when you do such things. So when we start with mushroom foraging, I think you learn that you can only forecast the weather, and it is what it is. When the weather is not great, even the best mushroom foragers will come back home with empty baskets, and you cannot be mad at you or at the weather, right?
Yeah.
Second thing, patience and persistency. So you will not be great in mushroom foraging if you expect that mushrooms will just magically, pop up in front of your eyes.
Yes.
So it's an exploration, and sometimes it takes a lot of time to find some great mushroom places. And from my crochet hobby, I think that I embrace that rework is needed in some of the cases, is expected. And maybe sometimes it's actually something that you have to do to achieve the best possible outcome.
Very well said. Joanna, let's now talk about the work you do as a professional Scrum trainer, consultant, and an effectiveness expert. For my viewers and listeners, help us understand the meaning of Scrum and what first drew you towards Scrum as a framework for effectiveness.
Oh, that's a lovely story. Okay, but let's start with the definition. So Scrum is a framework that helps people, teams, organization look for adaptive solutions for complex problems. So this is a very formal definition. Now, I can imagine that if Scrum is a completely new word for somebody, this still may feel like too vague. So let's make it more tangible. If you think about new idea, something that you are creating, it may be any creative work, your personal work or professional work. Actually, you are never 100% sure what will be the outcome. And because of that, the approach of let's do everything and then expect everything will be fantastic seems not to be the best. So what's the alternative? Let's do something good enough and let's reflect. Maybe let's gather feedback from others. Let's try to understand it from different perspectives. And this allows us to mitigate risk of delivering, creating something nobody likes, nobody wants. And it also encourages us to regularly reflect, regularly learn how to make things better. And this is in a nutshell Scrum. It's a way how to mitigate the risk in this unknown situation with a lot of ambiguities. And how do we do that? By regularly creating something smaller and learning based on that. So that's my perception. Why it happened to me, why I started my journey with Scrum like over 15 years ago, because I met right people. So I think it starts with people, and we are a lot talking now about people. So when I joined Nokia in Wrocław, well, it used to be called Nokia Siemens Networks. There were plenty of absolutely amazing people there. And they were change agents. They were talking about Scrum, Agile ways of working, changing this mindset. And what else can I say? I absorbed that as my inspiration, and this is how it started. So I started as a practitioner.
Fascinating. And what exactly is Agile Kata, and how does it support continuous improvement?
Another fantastic term from my vocabulary. So Agile Kata is a certain pattern that was inspired by, surprise, surprise, Toyota. So if anybody have ever heard about lean product management, lean software development, Toyota and this topic, again, we are borrowing from manufacturing, we are borrowing from Toyota. Why it is connected with continuous improvement? Because Agile Kata brings an interesting, simple frame, idea, how to work towards a problem or challenge in an iterative way. It's embracing experimentation along the journey, and very, very often inspection, adaptation, so improving ourselves. And because of the structure, how do we handle challenges, problems, ideas in Agile Kata? We are actually building a daily improvement habit. And when we actually incorporate it finally as a part of our DNA, as a part of our perception, this becomes a continuous improvement process for us.
Very interesting. With AI and automation growing, how do you see Scrum and agility evolving in the future of work?
I absolutely love that question. I strongly believe that with AI and automation growing, Scrum and Agile perspective on product management, product discovery, product development actually becomes even more important. Why, you may ask? Well, because with AI, we can be better in delivering more, right? But what if we keep on delivering things nobody wants? We can become the masters of delivering waste. And Scrum and Agile will take us down from this cloud of, yes, we can do everything, and will help us narrow down this thinking towards, but how to leverage AI and automation to deliver value? Because the art is not to deliver more, the art is to maximize the amount of work done, the amount of work that leads to waste. So I think it's like two best friends meeting, in a nice restaurant. We are in a good place.
What a great response. Thank you. And Joanna, what role does psychological safety play in successful Scrum leaders?
Another amazing question. So I don't know if our audience know the term, but the term psychological safety, or maybe I should say, based on the work of Professor Amy Edmondson, team psychological safety, is our common belief in the team that it is safe here to take interpersonal risks. And having said that, it means that if there is a high level of psychological safety, I'm not afraid to ask a question. I'm not afraid to admit I don't know. I'm not afraid to challenge idea, solution. I'm not afraid to help others. So I feel like this is all connected, right? So I help, I ask for help, I challenge, I speak up. And when we take a look at leadership and Scrum teams in particular, leaders have enormous impact on team psychological safety,
Right.
and they can actually shape our psychological safety. And this is not yet another fluffy word. I want you to, if somebody still have any doubts, please take a look at research by Professor Edmondson. Please take a look at the research done by Google, Project Aristotle. And there is a clear connection. High level of psychological safety means potentially high performance. Everybody wants to have high performing teams, right? The teams that are not afraid to discover new things, the teams that are not afraid to experiment, the teams that are great in learning. This is what is enabled by high level of psychological safety.
Thank you. I've learned something new from you today. Thank you. Joanna, you mentor leaders globally. What are some of the common leadership blind spots you have encountered?
It's really interesting because while I think a lot of us are fantastic and unique people, everybody is unique in a sense, that there are certain patterns. And I think that if I could just emphasize a few elements, it's something strange for the leaders to learn like genuine curiosity, and there are consequences to that. It means I don't know things, and it's fine not knowing things. And generally speaking, learning how to become vulnerable. So we have a nice connection to our previous question, because if the leader wants the team members to become vulnerable, they should start with themselves. So how do you want to create this great environment? You start with admitting, I don't know. Or one of my favorite stories, the customer of mine asked me, but Joanna, what if as a leader I made a mistake? And I said, maybe you just say, I made a mistake, I'm sorry, and that's absolutely enough.
How can leaders balance agility with the pressure of delivering short-term results?
That's a good one, because I think that quite often I hear like it's either or, and I believe it's not.
Correct.
Why? Because if we go back, why Scrum, agility, all those fantastic things were created, we actually wanted to become better and more effective in delivering value to the users, to the customers, to stakeholders, let's put it in a broad term. So I think it's not about which is better or how to switch. I think it's, you use the word balance. I think the balance is in finding the sweet spot, because we need certain pressure. In fact, it was proved that if the work is not ambitious, is not interesting, people may get bored.
Right.
People will not feel that this is a fulfilling job. So it's the most common vocabulary that I would use. It's finding a sustainable and still ambitious pace of work. And Scrum, because how it works, will encourage us to regularly bring some results. What have we learned? What kind of progress we have? This is what is actually incorporated in the framework, right?
Right. You're also a certified action learning coach. How does action learning complement Scrum practices?
Beautifully. If you ask me for one word, beautifully.
Okay.
So in my experience, action learning may absolutely be super helpful in, for instance, sprint retrospectives or any meeting Scrum team may have to work on a certain problem. Because what's the purpose and the beauty of action learning? So on one hand, we want to uncover what is the real problem of the person, of the team, maybe of the whole department. So our Scrum team may even work on a bigger problem. And the other thing is about learning. Learning about what? How to become a better professional individually, but also how to become better as a group. So this process is helpful in both ways. It will help Scrum teams make progress towards their goals, and it will help them in continuous improvement, because it will encourage this process of learning and becoming better and better.
Well said. What trends in organizational effectiveness excite you the most right now?
There are two things which I absolutely love. One thing is responsible and reasonable usage of AI. I think AI is coming in a sense like electricity, right? So it's changing a lot, but in fact, it's not taking something away from us. It's an opportunity to create a space for our creativity to grow. And AI solutions can work as partners. I will also want to emphasize, we are the guidance of that process. So I think in that way, AI can beautifully help, and I see it's already helping a lot. I'm an AI user, and I think it can help you in many of the cases. Second topic, which excites me a lot, is that more and more companies switch towards the thinking of product discovery. So it's no longer product thinking generally, instead of a very stiff process of planning, execution, delivering, and that's it. Companies think more how to become great in learning. So I absolutely love those conversations about prototyping, about different levels of experimentation. So even before we start building the product, for instance, using Scrum, we pay a lot of attention to learn which directions might be helpful and which we should cross out from our solution tree for now.
Yeah. Okay. I have time for two more questions for you. What small but powerful practices can teams adopt to become more effective immediately?
Immediately. Okay, I have at least one or two good ideas, simple ones. Stop for a moment, even right now when you're listening to us, and together ask yourself two questions. First, what are we doing well? Next step will be do more of things that you do well. Second question, what can we do better? Try to find one small thing that you can do to improve and do it in the upcoming week or two. If you regularly repeat that, you are already making fantastic steps.
Progress. Yeah.
Yes, and there is a potential progress. Second, very universal approach, which I found in many, many different companies as something like wow factor. Write down what you are currently doing and try to cross out as many things as possible. So long story short, try to do less, because I think almost all of us struggle with trying to do thousands of things at the same time. Let's try to narrow down focus.
Correct. Well said. And my last question for you, Joanna. If you had to distill your career lessons into one piece of wisdom for teams worldwide, what would it be?
Fear makes the wolf look bigger than he is, but the action will make him smaller. So try to plan at least small actions and face the wolf, because what if the wolf is not so scary as you thought? What becomes possible if things turns out to be much simpler?
Wow. And on this amazing piece of wisdom, fear makes the world look bigger than it is, and we need to learn how to conquer some of these fears, take small size steps to be able to manage everything that we are doing. Thank you, Joanna, for talking to me about your own amazing journey. Thank you for speaking to me about Scrum, about Agile Kata, and about leadership. Thank you again for speaking to me, and good luck to you.
Thank you very much. Thank you for having me, and all the best to you and to the all audience.
Thank you. Thank you for listening to the Brand Called You videocast and podcast, a platform that brings you knowledge, experience, and wisdom of hundreds of successful individuals from around the world. Do visit our website www.tbcy.in to watch and listen to the stories of many more individuals. You can also follow us on YouTube, Facebook, Instagram, and Twitter. Just search for the Brand Called You.